patient. We'll hit them on our terms. When we're good and ready. We inherited our freedom. Now it's up to all of us to fight for it.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, where the fight begins and information never sleeps.
It is no secret that the so-called mainstream media is best described as controlled propaganda. Countless news stories are either totally ignored or spun with half-truths, and because of this, essential facts and vital information are often compromised. Join Dr. Ott every Friday night on Studio B at 10 p.m. Eastern and learn why The Story Behind the Story was nominated for a Peabody Award in its second year of producing unparalleled broadcasting excellence in 1997. That is, if you really care about learning the truth.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener-supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
What we do in life, it goes in eternity.
Listen to our shows. We have a number for Studio A and Studio B, and best of all, it's free. Don't forget, your carrier charges for your cell phone provider may apply, though, so check with your cell provider to make sure. So ready? Here you go. Get a pen. Here's the number. Studio A is 712-432-6958. And Studio B is 716-748-0112. Thank you very much for listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, the number one listener-supported radio station in the world.
Hey everyone, it's Barbara Jean Lindsay, the Cosmic Oracle. If you have questions about your past lives or future plans, need answers from the cosmos about your love life or career, or just want to keep your finger on the pulse of the planet, check out my show, The Cosmic Oracle, here on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
I don't know if you guys can hear me, but I don't hear anybody.
I can hear you.
Goodbye, sober day. I would say I lay. I good. Seems we have a problem. It seems we have a problem. It seems I would like, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to introduce Mr. Rowe is in the house.
Ey, ven acá, no perdas el tiempo, aprovecha el momento y tranquila, déjate llevar, échate pa' acá, dale, vamos ya que llegaron los kilas. Tranquila, dale baby, dale que esto no hace fila. Tranquila, dale baby, que tú eres la que más domina. Practico contigo todo lo que tú quieras, pa' que la pasemos toda la noche entera y veo tu cuerpo. Ey, ven acá, no perdas el tiempo, aprovecha el momento y tranquila, déjate llevar, échate pa' acá, dale, vamos ya que llegaron los kilas. Tranquila, dale baby, dale que esto no hace fila. Tranquila, dale baby, que tú eres la que más domina. Y veo tu cuerpo, Ey, ven, tranquila, déjate llevar.
Hello, привет, добрый день, фалака, хуянавant, aloha, hola, jambos, socares, buongiorno, aloche fach, zdrasti, yo, hello, good evening, I'm your host, Mr. Rowe, and you are listening to Reality Extraction on freedomslips.com. Today is Thursday, June 2000. Studio B. Behold, it is the standing of the moon as the beginning of Ramadan, for those of you that practice that. I'd like to say a special hello to Azimuth, Eagle Eye, the Hijacker, Math Powerland, Crystals in Murphy's, R in Amsterdam, and Thomas in Walnut Creek. You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We are the #1 listener-sponsored radio network on the planet. We don't get sponsors or corporate donations, and so rely on you and your good charity to keep us going. And we thank you for keeping us on the air. So if you'd like to come to our station at freedomslips.com, we have a chat room and we have some buttons. One of them is called Donate. If you click on that button, you can send a little PayPal gift for as little or as much as you choose. No amount is too great or too small. And even click on the banners and that gives us a few cents. As always, I must preface this show by stating that the sounds and emanations that protrude from my vocal area may or may not represent the actual firings of neurons and synapses in my cerebral cortex. It is very possible that I, or you, or any combination thereof may actually be under some sort of magical spell or under a nefarious mind control plot, and we may all be nothing more than each other's hallucinations. Or not. Anyway, now that that's out of the way, I just want to say that if you know me, or my airtime, you are aware that I'm a pretty serious fellow when it comes to investigating events, conspiracies, claims, that. I don't do satire at all. I hate satire. Bad satire. Bad. I like references. I try to verify information. But, there are unknowns, and unknowns should be treated as such with equal respect to the research at hand. In a court of law, when we look at the evidence, indeed, the eyes of a true justice are blind and the scales are weighted with unbiased and a neutral standpoint. So today we are going to take a serious yet critical look at a claim, a theory, a belief, an unknown, a taboo, if you will. This show will, for the next 2 hours, attempt to take an intellectual and logical approach to what at first may seem to be ridiculous. That being said, I'd like to introduce my special honored guest and two of my co-hosts. We have 3 networks represented here tonight. I have a special honored guest from Truth Frequency Radio joining me. His name is Mr. Mark Sargent. He has his own radio show every Saturday called Strange World on truthfrequencyradio.com. Also joining me from Fallen Angels TV and Freedom Slips, we have Mr. Zen Garcia. He has his own show on this network, on this studio, every Wednesday evening. And we have that feral hippie herself, the lovely Miss Mona, the herbal floozy of the group. Mona has her very own show every single weekday, also right here on Studio B. And before we get right into it, I'll do a quick shout out. Say hello to Nighthawk and Bray Ross 790, Hal 9000, Hammerhead, Surrey Sunflower, Billy Hayes, Destination Human, Dry Fly Guy, Jer Bear, Herbal Floozy 1, Karen K, Kuran, Janona, Swami Shiva. Namaste. This blue monkey. Every time I see this blue monkey, I have to stop and take a breath, because I tend to race against myself. Okay. You see, Dremjar, Vosto A. Chifach, Wolfman J, Ost Paul, Bernard, Share 6, Doc Who, G Hopscotch, or is it Gopscotch? Hemp, N8, Leo Knight, Lozo 1, Lucid Mitchell, Monkey 4310, our faithful Monkey 4310. All the other monkeys left. Moxie, Mr. Rowe, that'd be me. Noodles, 57,542. And we have Pale Rider, Potato 8, Rap C. We also have Resist the Savior, Rev Radio, Simply Red 777, Skyzilla Star Trekker, Swagen, Sweet Janaba, Thunderbird Turner, What Will Is Zap, and the Zippies, 1231-267-42776, 918, and Zipster. Well, that was a mouthful. Okay, so welcome to the show, Mr. Mark Sargent. How are you this evening, sir?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm very good, very good. And Mr. Zen Garcia, are you with us as well?
I am, and I appreciate the invite. Consider it an honor to be here in Roundtable with all of you. I look forward to the whole show.
Great. And Miss Mona, are you also there? Is that a Big 10-4?
420.
Okay. All right. I think we're ready to roll. A lot of my shows are very serious. Like I said, if you know my airtime, I do give. I like to be investigative. I like to take a serious look. Like I said, I'm not a satire guy, and there is this subject that we're going to approach tonight, and I'm going to give Mr. Sargent the floor in a second. And because I believe that he could probably introduce it a little better than I can. I'm right now at a neutral standpoint regarding this, as I think that most of us are, and it has been a taboo. And without ado, they rhyme. Mr. Mark, you have the floor.
I'm sorry, you cut out there. Did you say I had the floor?
Yes, you have the floor, sir.
Oh, okay. For those of you who are new to this whole thing, really what I've been proposing since February, let me go back a ways, and that was last summer. I was kind of introduced through a couple of YouTube videos and a couple of things that I had read about the ludicrous, ridiculous thought of the flat Earth theory, and I tried to debunk it for the better part of 9 months, and then turned around in February and just woke up in the middle of the night and said, you know what, there may be something to this, and laid down a series of clues called Flat Earth Clues, which are on YouTube, and I did the intro and the first 7 in 8 days, and after that, everything it gained an amazing amount of traction, and then people started calling me on it, and to the point where they were, the debates came here and there, but what was amazing was the debunkers weren't coming out after me. And I thought for sure people would be jumping all over this one because, as you know, flat Earth is considered either one of two things. It's considered either archaic religious belief or it's considered antiquated science. And the ball started rolling now to where, I've done 25, 30 interviews. I think I've lost count. And again, everybody's been really, really positive about it. And what's amazing to me, in fact, it just happened last night, the more people that are trying to debunk it, they seem to be getting drug into the tar pits along. It's like, so they'll watch somebody debunk it, that'll go badly for them, and then someone will come in and say, oh, let me help you, prove that it's a globe. They'll get pulled into the pit. And on it goes, and it's really been amazing to see. So that's basically what I'm proposing, that we are living in. I don't even use the term flat Earth anymore. I use it, because I created a website. I had to because of the press that's been going on this, called enclosedworld.com, and that's what I'm proposing. That if the Truman Show was 20 miles wide, if you expanded it to, say, a couple thousand miles wide, could you keep not just Truman, but could you keep an entire civilization from finding out about it? And everything that I have seen so far points to yes, more likely than not, to where the burden of proof now has shifted to the people that are holding on to the globe, saying, look, it's like, look, prove to me it's a globe. That's what I want, because I tried to prove it for 9 months and I couldn't do it. Banging my head on the desk. Anyway, that's my intro.
Okay, now I have a couple fundamental questions that I just need to get off my chest before anything.
Sure.
I'm going to kind of treat it as a roundtable. People feel free to pose your questions. Please, let's all be respectful. Now,
or don't.
Yeah, I'm going to sort of play devil's advocate because, like I said, I'm in the middle, and it's kind of like I don't want to feel like a prosecutor, but anyway, do you propose that this is an infinite plane, or is it enclosed and part of something much bigger?
I could go with either, and if you're speaking from the Matt Boylan / Math Powerland question, again, I don't hate his model at all. He likes to, because he's an artist, he doesn't like the confined Truman Show enclosure. I totally get that. So if you go to Antarctica, if there is more land that reaches in a whole nother world or worlds, like an egg crate or an egg carton is out there, and that's what it turns out to be, hey, fantastic. It's not going to bother me a bit. For me, though, I like the enclosed world for two reasons. One, it's way easier for people to get their head around, because when you say the word infinite, people get lost. It's like you're asking them a hard math question. The other thing, though, and this is really the bigger one, is that, like, look, from a design standpoint, you can do a lot more. There's a lot more flexibility if it's enclosed. And on top of that, it's like, look, we're as evolved as we are. We're pretty, you've watched the sci-fi movies. We're savage. We're dangerous. We've been
taught that.
Well, would you let a species like us run amok if you didn't have to? If it was.
Trust me, I'm not in a judgment mode.
Okay. But yeah, so for me, I could go either way. The infinite plane, hey, great, fantastic. There's a few problems there, but we can go into them later if you want. But for me, I like the enclosed thing. That's the model I'm going with.
So enclosed, and then on the outside is space?
No, could be more worlds. Again, it could be the egg carton thing that Matt was proposing as well. But here's the thing: when it's enclosed, you don't need space. People ask me that all the time. They say, is there space outside of this? It's like, well, yeah, there could be, but if you're simulating space, then the chances of actually being real space outside of it, you don't need to do it.
So real quick to my question, how are you looking at asteroids and meteors then? These kind
of asteroids and meteors are easy for regardless whether it's enclosed or it's an infinite plane. The builders would have to be in charge of it, not us, obviously. Not like chemtrails. Where you just add a piece of metal ore at speed, a shallow trajectory, let the atmosphere and the friction burn it up. Make sure you don't aim at any populated areas, which is why that thing in Russia a few years back got a little dicey. I think somebody fell asleep when they were aiming that one. But meteors, no, that's a cakewalk. Compared to like the lower systems, way easier.
Do you believe there's other dimensional realms besides the one that you're trying to explain?
Yes, absolutely, I do. In fact, I think it's easier. Because people come at me all the time with different things. They saying, does this model conflict with other things that are out there, like dimensional planes? No, there could be other dimensions sitting right on top of us. In fact, it makes the whole alien thing a lot easier because, in fact, I had a guy come at me the other day and says, the whole travel, light speed travel, or regardless whether you use a wormhole or not, still gets really tricky if these guys are flying from long distances. But if they're interdimensional, then an enclosed system that's stationary, that's not rotating around a sun, that's really, really easy to do.
Well, it's just a thought away, almost like your theory.
Yeah.
What was the aha moment for you in looking into this research? I mean, what really set you off on, and without, no turning back?
My point of no return was believe it or not, was a human equation, which was the Admiral Byrd mystery. And not even necessarily so much him, but what happened after he died. So, when Admiral Byrd was, he did the North Pole in 1926, and he's mostly known for the hollow earth theory. But then he was ordered by who, we don't know, but I think it's the higher, the authority. And by that I mean, governments or royalty or the super rich. They pointed him at the South Pole, and he was looking for something from 1928. He spent from 1928 until his death down at the South Pole. And when he did his last mission was Operation Deep Freeze in 1956. And after that, even though there was a whole bunch of nations down there, there was England and Russia, United States, Argentina, New Zealand, Chile. They were all down there, and he had found, basically an unlimited supply of resources. Goes on television, national television, and tells everybody that, look, the place is made out of money. And that everybody should start gearing up to really start exploiting this place. And it would have been easy because, there's no indigenous plant life, no animal life, no ancient ruins, no anything. It's just ice and snow, and, it's a very hostile place. And for whatever reason, after Operation Deep Freeze, whatever they found down there freaked them out so badly that they all left the ice unilaterally. I mean, everybody, all countries left, and then they put a treaty in place that went into effect officially in 1959. I think they started writing it in 1957. That basically said no corporation can ever go down there and do anything ever. And that goes against, for me, that was my point of no return, because it was like, the greatest living explorer of the United States goes on television, says, oh, yeah, this is the place to make money. There's coal, there's oil, there's minerals, there's uranium. We're going to just have our way with this place. And then a short time later, the whole place gets shut down and nobody talks about it again, to the point where the treaty isn't even up for review until 2041. And it was crazy. It goes against everything that we are. And that was my point of no return as far as looking into this. Then at that point, I just had to, form the structure and figure out the systems and how I would design it. But that was the big one, because they couldn't even come up with a cover story for it. And what conspiracy, we all have our favorites, but what conspiracy is bigger than money? The petroleum industries have the backstage pass to everything. They could get into your backyard if they wanted to. All they have to do is lobby and bribe, and they can get in anywhere. But yet, they aren't, not only are they not allowed to go down there, they aren't even allowed to petition it. You'd think that all they'd have to do is, throw a few news stories out there saying, Exxon wants to go to Antarctica. And they don't. They aren't even allowed to talk about it. And it's like it's again, it's not like Area 51 where you put up a bunch of scary signs and have people driving around with SUVs, chasing people off. This is an entire continent. And so, yeah, I'm sorry, that was my long-winded thing, but that was my point of no return. And then that was clue 2. And as soon as I did that clue, I knew I was in it for the duration.
All right. For people that have never heard about this, what are like the first major points you would present to them because I know when I began to research and to look into this, the one thing that stood out immediately to me was the debunking of the curvature of the Earth and how, you can see ships and lighthouses and cityscapes miles and miles away.
That's a pretty good one. I didn't touch on that in my clues, and here's why. The average person, I'm not talking to you guys, I'm sure you're all academics and very, very smart. But when you try to tell people, it's like, look, the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches per mile squared. There's some people that look at you like you have a bug on your face. And so, right. but yeah, you got a point, and that is, but the thing is, you're going to see stuff from both sides. You're going to see a picture of a city that's in the distance where you can't see the bottom of the city because of the waves. But then you're also going to see a picture of this Chicago skyline where you can see the entire Chicago skyline from the other side of the lake, and you shouldn't be able to. But that's not the ones. If you ask me where I would point people at first, I'd point at the easiest thing in the world, and that is. And again, I know it's going to drive some people nuts, but I'm going to throw it out there, and that's, look, find the pictures of Earth from space. All you have to do is take your favorite search engine, whether it's Google or Yahoo or whatever you want, and type in Earth from space, 3 words, or picture of Earth from space, 5 words, and tell me how many pictures you'll find. And you will find one. Which is the 1972 Apollo 17 picture, which shows the bottom part. It's a very cloudy picture, which shows the bottom part of Africa and all of Antarctica. Not a coincidence they would try to show those two things. Every other picture. Are we going to break?
Yeah.
Okay.
Zen, and there is a caller on the line. Caller, please identify yourself. I didn't notice you were there.
Is Peter?
Hello.
You're on the air.
Yeah, I was on the listen line. I was just listening.
Hey, is this Olive?
Come again?
Is this Olive?
No, this is Peter Birdsall. I was on the YouTube. I have a YouTube thing. I thought it was the listen line. I was just listening.
Oh, no, this is actually not the listen line. This is the contribution line. But if you want,
I hope it didn't affect the show at all.
Go ahead and mute, and you can feel free to listen.
I'm on my phone. If I mute it, I don't think I'll hear any. I don't know if I don't think I hear anything.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, try it and see what happens. Just don't hang up.
Hey, I'm sorry. I had a question for
how is that? Am I muted? I don't.
No, you're not muted.
No, I honestly don't know how to mute this phone.
You may have to hang up and call back on the listen line.
Yeah.
What is the number for the listen line so I could do that?
The listen line for B is 716-748-0112.
Beautiful. Thank you, guys.
Not a problem.
Right, take care.
Great show.
Thanks. Okay. All right. There was one question that I'll just throw out there. Is What about the ancient writing on the walls that, the pick arts that ancient people have of knowledge of areas supposedly in space and the way the stars were? We've seen even a star map, I believe, inside the one of the pyramids in Egypt.
Sure.
How do you address that?
How do I explain that? Because I'll address it in a slightly different way, because I have people writing me every week and saying, does this model basically kill off astrology? No. And so I'm going to kill two birds with one stone here. And that is, look, the stars are still there. No question. The only difference is that they are not millions of light years away. Just think of it that you're in a giant planetarium and the stars are very, very well rendered and beautiful images. It doesn't change the fact that the stars and the planets are still an elaborate clock system, and if astrology and what everybody is based off of that, look, that's fantastic. I don't think it changes really anything there.
One word: aliens.
Oh, they're tied to this place. I see them all the time. I'm out in Colorado, and for those, I've mentioned this in other shows, but I have spent the last 3 or 4 years going out with night vision binoculars, because Colorado has some very high altitude, clear skies. And with night vision, the skies are crawling with things. And so the question is, in an enclosed system, does it change what the relationship is? Are they the maintenance team? Are they the superintendents? Are they the janitors? Could they be locked in here with us? Depends. If it's an enclosed system, they might be able to get out. If it's a flat plane system, well, then they're roaming all over the place. Either way, their protocols don't change. And that is, the strange thing about aliens is they still do not have permission, for whatever reason, to land in anybody's town. Doesn't have to be a big city. Anybody's town on Main Street. Get out, take pictures, shake hands, say hi, and then take off for various reasons. They're they could start a religion, they could start a whole nother thing, but no, aliens are absolutely tied to this place, and I firmly believe them. I love UFOs. Anyone has any doubts? Look up about aliens in this world. Look up the 1561 Nuremberg event. It's brilliant. It'll blow your mind when you read it. It's on. In fact, you can find it in Wiki. You don't even have to go any place strange to find it.
Well, then how would you consider time if it is a one literal flat existence instead of a circular one?
The concept of time?
Well, I see life as a seed and it's a circle, and that we get into pi and then it goes square. So how can you have something directly one perspectively dimension, like horizontal or vertical, without the rest of it? You can't.
You mean as far are we talking about ascension into higher frequencies, that sort of thing?
No.
Okay. Are we talking about?
I think I could have brought that out as a question, but mathematically in elementary, the whole phonics of how life is not a flat tone. It is in a circle.
Okay. I'm not exactly sure how you want me to answer that.
Well, if there's literally vehicles and they're in the third dimensional realm and you're witnessing them and you know of other parallel universal realms, and we're supposedly all on one flat structure, how can it do that and bend for the universe to actually be here now?
So you got to unfortunately, you have to redefine the whole universe if you're gonna go down.
It sounds like that's what's happening. Well, how could I redefine it? I'm not the one that was put here to try to bring up this subject.
Well,
and I'm really gonna
All right.
No, I didn't realize what I was being invited to. That's all, and I really just will not harmonically attain to stay. So thanks, Mr. Rowe. We'll have an interview on my show one day, and everybody have a good one, because I'm just not going to stay here and be with this subject. Thank you.
All right, Mona. Take care.
And may I address what just happened?
Oh, certainly.
I get this every once in a while. Believe me when I say this. There are people out there, and again, I do not blame them at all. I don't know if it's 1 in 4, 1 in 5, but when it comes to this subject, it is touchy, especially when they, you can talk about any conspiracy you want, and most of them do not rattle people's cages. You can talk about 9/11 and Sandy Hook and Boston bombing, JFK, Roswell, anything you want. And it does not, for the most part, it isn't going to rattle people's cages because it doesn't affect them directly. However, when it comes to this, believe me, I get people that will come out swinging or walk away or laugh you out of the room, no question, which is ironic for me because I can say the Truman Show all day long. Nobody questions me. I use the two words flat earth, and some people get, I'll give you the perfect reference, and that is when Neo was first told by Morpheus on the edge of that cliff. It's like, look, this is what the Matrix looks like. And Neo just got very, very upset and wanted out, and he didn't want any part of it. And now, sooner or later, of course, he had to deal with it. So everybody, when you're listening to this, yes, I know it sounds ludicrous and silly and ridiculous. And I was in that boat. Look, I have looked at every conspiracy you could ever think of, but when I looked at this one, finally, I actually got embarrassed to click the link. Because I was like, because of the conditioning I had as a kid, it's like, it's a globe. Everybody knows it's a globe. But after the months went by and I pulled on all these threads, I was literally banging my head on the desk saying, why can't I prove it's a globe? Why can't I prove it's a globe? And so I understand completely that reaction. I've seen it over the last 4 months a lot.
That's been my exact experience with this particular issue. I've studied every side of conspiracy as far as and biblical prophecy and everything in between, the ancient aliens, the Anunnaki, Sumerian, everything. But for some reason, this subject absolutely rattles cages. And so my question to you is, why do you think that is?
The biggest reason why it rattles cages is because it is, in my opinion, the greatest con that's ever been pulled. It is brilliant in its design, and our conditioning for the last 20 generations has been near flawless. And that is, it's so subtle. It is, you put a globe in a first grade class. We've all seen it. You put it in we're 6 years old, globe in the corner. All you have to do is leave it there. The kids love playing with it, and it sits in our classroom for all our primary school and high school. And if you get into college, depending on what field you study, it gets even worse. And so when you get out, it's in you. It's ingrained in you. And the reactions, I'm not kidding you. When you talk to people, you'll get one of two reactions. When you say, how do you know it's a globe? That's the first question I throw at them. And the first question, or the first answer is, it's a knee-jerk reaction, is, well, we know. That's just what we know. It's a given. And I wasn't kidding when I said that in the clues. It's like 1 + 1 = 2. We know that. We know that that gravity is something, right? You can drop something, it falls. We know this. But when it comes to the Earth, we equate the shape of the Earth with those things. And I go, okay, then how do you really know? And then the second one is always the same, which is, well, we've got the picture. We've got the picture from NASA. And I go, I'll flash it up on screen. I go, you mean this one from 1972? I go, why are we using a 40-year-old picture? Why is a 40-year-old picture the only photograph that you can find online of Earth from space? And for me, the answer is extremely obvious. You don't hide something that well unless the image is not what it appears to be. And again, do the test for yourself. You can look it up. Just the Earth from space. I know we got cut off during the break, but it's true. You'll find composites. You will find screenshots of Google Earth. You will find the Blue Marble composite series. They're all composites. There's only one shot out there, and that shot is in complete doubt at this point. So anyway, the long answer to what you're saying is, look, it's the greatest conditioning of all time, and people do not like their world being messed with. My sister, she hates the idea. She's like, look, I like my world. And I tell her, I was like, look, then, hey, stay with the globe for as long as you can, because for whatever reason, 2015, this is the most debated topic I've ever seen, come across the conspiracy world. There's like 20,000 flat Earth videos this year. Where did that come from? They're not all just me. I made 12, 13?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I don't want the Earth to be enclosed. I should, we're not specifically saying it's a flat Earth, but you're saying it's an enclosed Earth. That we are almost in a snow globe, if you will. That some sort of higher force, whatever you want to call it, God or very advanced aliens or a machine technological force of some sort is keeping us contained in a terrarium.
But it may be more innocent than that. And I know people will go down the sinister road, because we've seen, unfortunately, that's part of our conditioning too. We've seen so many science fiction movies because it's more fun to have a villain. But it could be as innocent as, some people say, it's a petri dish. Other people say it's a cage. And I throw back and say, well, it could be a box full of kittens, where we are being looked after. I try to take the more optimistic approach. It's like, look, we're still, as advanced as we are, there's still a lot of bad things about our civilization. And I think we need to be looked after, to a certain point. I know people want their freedom. I know that, but I just don't see it as sinister. I don't. I can't, because if I do, then the whole thing turns to doom and gloom. And I'm trying to see the silver lining in this.
I mean, on a large scale, we would be akin to the kids with the box of matches. I mean, we have technology that we're, I don't think, spiritually ready to handle. Running around with nuclear weapons and
that's a perfect point, if I may, and that is. If the things that happened after 1956, again, it proves this point, and that is, after 1956, if we found the edge, right? In 1957, the rocket program started up between the Soviets and the Americans, and then less than a year later, we automatically started putting atomic weapons on the top of them and started firing them straight up, and we fired them straight up for 4 years. And that's pretty much goes for what we've been doing all along. I mean, mostly men, of course. It's like, well, we might be in an enclosure. What's the first thing we're going to try? We're going to try to break through it. And they tried, and in my opinion, they tried for 4 years.
Something to that, because there is, Michael Tsarian? Have you heard of him, Michael?
I have.
Have you heard his 9-hour explanation about the history of human race?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's very interesting, and he talks about basically that it is an enclosed world, that there is a quarantine. He says it's around the solar system and also around the Earth.
Okay.
Which I think in your model, I think there's space. I'm going to agree.
Sure. Could be.
Think that it's a hologram, and I think that we may be enclosed. I don't know. I want to say that the Earth is round and we're on a globe. I really do.
Sure.
However, when I go down this rabbit hole like you, I can't prove it. And when I see suspicious nature, like evidence, moon landing, how it was faked, and that's been ripped apart, and the suspicious nature of the International Space Station, how it's filmed underwater, where you can that's plain. And we never do have a clear picture. So there are little dots that I put together, and I'm getting more dots on the suspicious side than I am on the provable side, which leads me to show this, where I can actually talk to somebody who's done some of his own research and get your viewpoint, and it's fascinating to me. So because it is a mind blank, if you will.
It is, and I feel bad for the people. There was a forum that went on last night. They were trying to debunk this thing for 3.5 hours, and I felt bad because, look, again, they're going down. Some of these people are going down rabbit holes, and I guarantee that some of the people on that panel are going to come back on the other side of it. But the problem is that there, as you know, with the conspiracy world, there's a lot of people out there that don't believe the moon missions. However, because the moon missions have just been dismantled, over the last 10 years. It's been embarrassing how badly the Apollo missions look now. But at the same time, if you're going to go and say, okay, I don't trust NASA because of the moon missions, it's really hard to pull back and then still hang on and say, oh yeah, but I believe everything that's on the ISS. Because, it's like, really? You're going to hold on to that? And I know, again, it comes in layers for people because look, this is a big, I tell people, it's like, look, you're not going to be able to jump in the deep end. Very few people are going to be able to jump in the deep end and tread water without getting out, first, because they just there's too much to take in. But the ISS, that's a perfect example of what you were just talking about, and that is what I try to tell people, because they say, oh, what about satellites and what about this? I'm just going, okay, you want to know about satellites? Let me tell you about the ISS, because the interior footage of the ISS is horrible. It's from a production standpoint, it is embarrassing. And it's like, okay, because we all know we have the technology to do it. So if you can do it, then why are you faking it? And for me, it's like you're only faking it because there's something physically stopping you. Now, whether or not that be something in space or something else going on, I'm saying that yeah, you may go outside and see the ISS that's flying up there, but there's no people in it. I guarantee that. I don't know why there's no people in it, but there's no people in it. And you can go on YouTube all day long and watch the footage on there and just cringe when you see it. And two words come to mind, and you'll know what I'm talking about, and that is hairspray or permed hair. Take your pick. It's horrible.
Yeah. Back to the quarantine issue real quick.
Yeah.
The enclosed world. So now, I have worked for a couple companies that have actually made and produced and launched satellites supposedly into space.
Yeah.
I've seen a launch, seen the rockets go up, and I've been to a satellite comm center, and I've actually, looked at it.
Sure.
So the level of I certainly think that they're sending satellites up there, and spy satellites, whatever, survey satellites, because I've operated them.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I suppose they could be below this quarantine. There's something to be said about these rockets that always arch. They say they always go out to the ocean and then they never space. I don't know. But what I was saying before is Sargent did posit a theory that we may very well be in a quarantine, and the goal of science, if you will, is to try to break through this shield that is keeping the descendants of the fallen ones in.
That that's a funny, Jim, you mentioned that, because several people have brought that up to me, because people say, not only who are the builders, but who are the first occupants? Because again, it's very, very obvious to me that we are not the first people to rent this apartment by any stretch. How many ruins do you have to find underwater? How many cities do you have to find in an ocean somewhere? There's stuff we're digging up now. The Bosnian pyramids. By the time they unearth that, it's like, okay, what's that point to? But the question is that the question always boiled down to, it's like, okay, who were the first occupants? And you know where I'm going with this, which is, okay, were the first occupants the fallen? And if they were, well, then this place becomes something very, very different. It becomes almost like a jailbreak scenario, where maybe the fallen, who would probably live under us in some sort of area, would let civilizations develop maybe naturally to if they were looking for novelty. Maybe every civilization that develops has the chance to develop a technology that they hadn't thought of. So in our case, it's like, okay, what do you got? You got atomic weapons. That's pretty good. Didn't work. What else you got? Well, we got HARP. Might be able to do something with frequencies. Not bad. What else you got? Ooh, that CERN thing looks pretty good. What can you do with that? Well, might be able to open a doorway.
But this is exactly what was posited by Sargent, is that folks like John Dee would make communications with spirits or folks in other dimensions who would give him instructions on, let's say, how to build a nuclear bomb. But of course, they're going to say, look, it's going to take you guys a couple hundred years to do it. But here's the basic technology you need. And then maybe in 1,000 years, you'll be at a point where, it really will make a difference. But to get to that, you're going to need to study for like 900 years in this technology to learn how to get to the next step. And yes, we could be in an abandoned snow globe, but we could be the little mites down on the side corner.
I would hope, just because we're human and we try to be noble every once in a while, I would hope we're not as insignificant as that, because that's kind of depressing. I'd like to think that part of the reason we're here is the novelty factor, and that is which is why I did Creative Force, because some people were telling me in the early videos that I was giving them small world syndrome, which is why I made chûwg, which was Creative Force, which is, look, every civilization has the ability to create really beautiful things when it comes to art and all the forms of art. and you could do some wonderful stuff with that. And so that's where I kind of try to turn it. Again, the sinister.
We're at break, Mark. Hold on to that thought.
Okay.
We'll pick it up right on the other side with Mark Sargent. And we're back. It's Thursday, the 18th day of June 2015. You're listening to Reality Extraction on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps. We are 100% listener-sponsored radio, the largest listener-sponsored radio network on the planet. And we kindly ask for your donations to help keep us going, keep us on the air, keep us bringing you this entertainment, programming, deprogramming, whatever you want to call it, news and information. I'm joined with Mr. Zen Garcia and Mark Sargent. I think and if you'd like to call in, we will take a few calls. You can call us at 310-421-4053. We ask that you be respectful. And if you Freedom Screen to us with Skype, and that Freedom Screen 2. Zen, if you've been kind of quiet, I'll let you take us into the second hour, sir.
All right. I had a comment anyways. Have you heard, either of y'all heard of the work of Peggy Kane and the things that she does with reverse speech? And do you know anything about reverse speech? And then I'll further the commentary.
No, I do not know. Reverse speech in the reptilians, right?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because what she does is she uses a headphone in the software that plays back in reverse whatever it is that she's listening to, whether it's an interview or a song, and she usually listens to interviews by different people, and she claims that in doing so she will hear messages, or that there will come out a message which it relates to what is what is truly being spoken by the person, even if they're in forward speech speaking lies, like if she's listening to President Bush or President Obama or somebody of that nature, even if they're lying and just spewing propaganda initially, if she listens to what they say in reverse, she gets messages on what their true intent is, as far as the ulterior motive, the Illuminati agenda, New World Order, those kind of things. But what is interesting to me in some of the work that she's released is when we were talking about in the previous hour about how, if we are in an enclosed space and it is under quarantine, and if the fallen ones, because in my research and in my sixth book, I talked about the prior times, and I wrote about how the rebel angels, that they were cast out of the heavens before the modern creation of humanity, and that they are the ones that are responsible for building all of the megalithic structures, things like you mentioned that are, cities at the bottom of the ocean, and if there are structures on the moon and Mars or anything of that nature, that they were the ones responsible for having created those kind of things. But
still there?
Yeah. You got that?
I think go caller.
Oh, is that Helena, the one that's generating that noise?
I don't know where that's coming from.
Helena, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, great.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, let me just finish this commentary real quick. And so, anyways, in talking about the prior times and the rebel angels and even the watchers after their fall and their mating with the daughters of man, if we are in this quarantine and that they're not able to escape, she talks about in her reverse speech, she keeps hearing discussion about a net having been placed over the earth and that is keeping the fallen angels locked down to this particular time and space and existential dimension, and that, like you had mentioned, in their possibly rearing humanity over and over again, or to create certain advancements in technology so that they can try to punch a hole through this net and to escape, and that because they know judgment is coming. Even like in the scriptures, it talks about when the demons was cast out, it said, have you come to, talking to Christ, have you come to torment us before the end? So they know that there's judgment coming, and that in this reverse speech and the things that she talks about, she keeps mentioning, and she says that she keeps hearing how one of their motivations is to escape and to break through the net. So I just wanted to get you to comment on that.
Oh yeah, I totally. That's a great take on it, and not to go down the biblical path too far, but again, you guys probably know. In fact, he may even be on your network. Rob Skiba, who interviewed me some time ago, he's made like a 8 or 9 hour thing so far, and he covers everything chapter and verse as far as how, at least as far as the Christianity side goes, how this structure, and I love the net thing. No one's ever thrown the net to me before, but that I could see that. And I again, there's everything in cycles, not to use the Matrix Revolution too much, but they counted things from one civilization, to another. And if you go back to the first one, it would make sense if it was them. I'll give you that. So, you still there?
Yeah, and I think all of that is very interesting. Just to make one other comment as far as, and I know you've got a caller, Mr. Rowe, but two other things besides, all the things as far as NASA and the cover-ups and the lies, why it is that they are having to manipulate and to create this false reality as far as, whether there's a ISS space station or satellites, those kind of things, because that totally discredits, in my opinion, the reality that they're trying to portray and get us all to buy into. But the other thing that was critical for me is if we are on a planet that is spinning at a however 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, how it is that if you are in a plane and you fly east or west or north or south, if you fly at 500 miles an hour, in an hour you're going to be 500 miles away whether you go east or west. Yeah. And so that totally did not make sense to me in any way if we were on a spinning globe.
Yeah. That argument, and again, I didn't touch on that in the clues, but it's a good one, and that is, does gravity lock you down in both directions, east to west or west to east? But the one I like more than that is the merry-go-round experiment. And I'm sorry, by the way, caller, that you're having to wait as long as you are, but I got to get this one out. And that is, if the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour like a merry-go-round, and it's spinning at 0 miles an hour at the North Pole, then if you have like a weight, let's say a 100-pound weight to make it easy, at the North Pole, and you take it down to the equator, shouldn't it weigh a little bit less because of centrifugal force? Maybe not 10 pounds, maybe not even a pound, but we've got some precise devices, and centrifugal force should be acting on it a little bit. Nobody's done that test as far as I know. I'd love to see it.
Right, yeah, and they're... like you had mentioned earlier, and this is my final comment, and then you can go to the caller. When I was just like you, totally hesitant, as everybody is, and I didn't want to spend any, because my time is very important to me. I didn't want to waste it on anything. I'm so busy with all the different endeavors, the books I'm writing, and everything like that. And so, but when I began to look in it, the more weight I was able to lend to this particular theory, and then I found myself asking myself, well, why do I believe that I live on a globe? And so it flip-flop around. But anyway, go ahead, Mark.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the exact same thing happened to me and lots of other people so far, and that is, look, the weight has shifted now to where the burden of proof is on the globe side. Like, forget about the flat Earth stuff is stacking up. No play on words there, but tell me how it's a globe. Tell me how you know, and I'll listen to you. But I know what your first two answers are going to be, and then after that, you're in trouble, and then your world changes. So anyway.
Mr. Rowe, did you want to go to caller?
Yeah, well, we have been joined by Helena. Helena, how are you this evening?
I'm good, thanks, Mr. Rowe. Good evening, Mark and Zen. Look, if I was going to be completely honest, as a layman, I don't have the experience or knowledge to challenge either model. Okay. And we need to consider that. So, whether it's a globe or a flat Earth, most people don't have the empirical know-how to even prove either one. Okay. Most of the information we have received is via symbols, via a box. So the whole thing is questionable. The great side about this, and the meme, the flat Earth meme that has come out, there is a bright side to it. I've actually gone and done my own research. I've actually, in the past 2 months, have done some very extensive research, in fact, with my limited experience on science. But I have been able to gain new language, new terminology that I didn't have before. So it's good news. This isn't bad news, guys. It might
That's okay.
spark... Yeah, and I'm not talking, when I say you guys, I'm talking to the audience. It's not bad news. It could just mean that you might want to go and look into it yourself instead of taking for granted what we have been taught. You might, after your own research, find that it is in fact a globe. You might, after some extensive research, find that actually it is a plane. And it's going to prompt a lot of further questions. Now, my question to you, Mark, is what's the most compelling evidence that you've found that the Earth is possibly a plane? Like something really compelling.
Something compelling. The thing that gets bounced at me, because I did the clues, I broke them up really into 10-minute chunks, and I titled them all differently. The one that seems to get the most response, the people that come to me and say, you know what, I was on the fence, the people that have turned, the people that said I was on the fence, but this is what got me, really was the aircraft stuff in the southern hemisphere, which I was surprised. I thought for sure it'd be the pictures of the Earth or the Admiral Byrd or something like that, or NASA, but it was the southern plane routes, and I can't even really take credit for all that. I initially heard it through a German guy, and then a guy named Lawrence out of England. He was he was the one, he put up a video today, and he was the one that gave me the title Long Haul for Clue 7. But the plane routes in the southern hemisphere, that was the big one for, the one that seemed to resonate with more people than others, even though other clues did well, because it was something they could look up in 2 seconds and they could get their head around it. That was the easy thing. It's like, look, why, when you're flying from South America to Australia, why are you going through Los Angeles? And don't tell me it's because you have to pick up people. Because when you look on a globe, it's a giant arcing triangle that it turns into. But if you turn into the AE map, or the azimuthal equidistant map, it becomes almost a perfect straight line. And the odds of that happening over and over again, either a straight line or a short little dog leg, I kept looking at it, and it didn't, and I was wondering what I was seeing. It's like, why would all the connections keep bouncing around like this? And people were challenging it, and I did a clue in the meantime, Clue 8, but by the time I did Clue 9, which was really a follow-up to Clue 7, that's when I had it. And that was when I broke down the GPS system and I showed that, look, the GPS system does not work over water in the southern hemisphere. And it didn't make any sense. It just floored people because they could see it. They could launch it right now and look up on Plane Finder and watch those empty oceans for hours and hours and hours. And everyone that was the one that people got to me, and again, it surprised me, but they said, yeah, I get it, because it's an airplane. People travel, they fly around, and especially in the northern hemisphere. I'm imagining you're calling from the southern.
Yes, I'm in Australia.
Got it. That was the one that resonated more than most, because again, why would you turn off? Why would you disable GPS over the oceans? It's a GPS system. It stands for Global Positioning System, designed by the U.S. military. We don't do anything small. And there were massive gaps in the coverage, and I said that they were turning it off deliberately. But then what was interesting was, after I was done with the clues, I had people emailing me that were saying, there's a strong possibility that it's not that they're turning off the system in the southern hemisphere. It's that the system cannot track them over water in the southern hemisphere because they don't have coverage. That they're compensating with towers, with specialized AWAC planes, with spy planes, with repeater planes, and that they can't cover those oceans. And I thought, wow, that's pretty good too. So, does that sort of answer your question?
Yes. Okay, I have one more quick question.
Sure.
If it in fact is a plane, and I'm not saying it is, and it's not a globe, what's with the cover up? Why spend millennia, actually last 500 years, to convince us that it's a globe? What's the agenda behind it being a globe? Why?
It's a two-part agenda, and I do talk about it a little bit in the clues. I know I kind of bounce around a little bit, but it's a two-part agenda. One is the agenda from the builders themselves, and two is from the authority that figured it out. And by that I mean the modern governments, royalty, and the super rich, and not all the super rich, the old super rich, which was this. From the builder's standpoint, if you're going to build a system like this, and I'm talking from a gaming design background, especially when it comes to human beings, you have to hide the edges of this thing. Or you have to hide the boundaries to where, regardless whether it's an infinite plane or not, you can't let people know that they can get out, because human beings will be obsessed with the fence. Or the outer edge, or if there's more land or the potential of another world that you could walk to or fly to or drive to, that's all we'd care about. And that would start as soon as the internal combustion engine came out. That's when that thing would start ramping up. So I think it was a natural process by the builders that we were eventually supposed to figure this out. Unfortunately, in 1956, talk about Murphy's Law or whatever, the people that found it were the governments of a very small group, very small section of people. And once they found it, they had a decision to make. And I'll give this analogy to you. But it should work. And that is, imagine, the five big religions of the world, right? Judaism, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, and Christianity, right? Make up the majority of the population of our planet. All of them have been looking for a divine object, a spiritual object. Everybody's been looking for the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, the Spear of Destiny. They all been looking for this magical thing. And to date, no one has found it. Imagine if they all got one at the same time. Imagine if they all got, because it doesn't matter what the government tells them. If they show them, let's say it's the edge or barrier, another world, we'll say it's an edge though, because of my theory. If they see it's an edge, it doesn't matter if there's an alien ship parked right next to it. Most of the religions are going to say it's the handprint of God. And when they do that, science and the governments have a big problem on their hands, because religion is going to come back at them and say, look, you guys have been giving us a hard time now for hundreds of years, and then the last 60 years, again, they could have revealed it in 1956. It would have been easier. Now it's going to be a nightmare in some aspects. But the spirituality of this planet changes, I think, for the better. I think the world becomes a better place if we find this out. But the government's reaction was, look, it's going to be a mess. We don't want to deal with it. Let's just hold on this thing for as long as it can. We've got the money to spend. And, $1 trillion in adjusted dollars over the last 50, 60 years, done a pretty good job. But nobody's been known the wiser. And again, for whatever reason, this year, 2015, either deliberately or not deliberately, it seems to be crumbling. As far as the holding on to this belief, and I'm all for changing over.
See, we have a question from Jerbear in the chat, so we'll just throw this out cold. What about the catalytic destruction, the asteroid that hit the Gulf of Mexico?
Oh, yeah. When it comes to some of that stuff, because other people have said, what about you're going to throw that, why don't you throw in the crater out in Arizona? It goes back to again, we are not, no doubt in my mind, we are not the first tenants for this place. And if that's the case, then cataclysms in the past, other civilizations had to deal with them. I don't want to go back to the Great Flood necessarily. Great Flood's a lot easier in a system like this. But the Gulf of Mexico cataclysm probably happened to I don't know how many versions back. I don't think it was 1.0, but maybe 4 or 5. Hard to say.
You don't subscribe to the Nibiru theory?
Oh, I used to. I was a big Nibiru guy. I was a big Planet X guy. But that was 2012. It's 2015. And now what I'm looking at it as is like, look, if Nibiru does show up, I'm gonna call staged on that one, because that part, if anyone's looking for a good place to use Project Bluebeam, there you go. Use Project Bluebeam and simulate all the fun stuff you want. You could make a heck of a light show with that. Do I think Nibiru? Yeah, in an enclosed system, Nibiru can't be real physically. That doesn't mean you can't fake it, because 99% of the population is going to buy it anyway, if it shows up. But again, it's 2015. I've been hearing this now for 3 years. Every month, Nibiru's closer. Here's pictures in Antarctica. Here's pictures here. If it shows up now, I'm actually going to walk outside, and I don't think I'll even really look twice. I'll be like, okay, how are you pulling this off?
Yeah, because we have, obviously you'd have to be under a rock now to have heard about Jade Helm.
Oh, God. Well, that's funny you'd mention that, because I don't want to spook people. I don't. But I have had, since this thing has started, I've had at least 5 people who have claimed none of them known each other. They all claim they have abilities, in the psychic world, and they have all told me independently that something's coming. And I didn't know much at the time. I was focused on this. And they said something's coming in the fall. And I go, but they couldn't put their finger on it. They could not define it. It was like they were chasing smoke. They didn't know. And people, some people have thrown out Jade Helm. Some people have thrown out a meteor. So some people have talked about, another terrorist attack or something like that. It's interesting. Does the Jade Helm thing, could it happen? Yeah, very well could happen. But I think Jade Helm would be just part of a multifaceted thing that could include something staged in the sky. I don't know if I'd use Nibiru, though, because I don't think a lot of people would get Nibiru. You'd have to explain it to them. You want to freak people out, throw a bunch of fake alien ships in the sky. That's what I'd do.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself that, we have the technology to do a lot of stuff. And I personally think we have a secret space program. Again, this is where you and I may disagree. I still think we're doing something out there in space. Well, you know what? Maybe they've got wormholes. Maybe they have a way to get past the shield, if you will, or, to the outer reaches, whatever's outside of this snow globe, if we subscribe to that theory.
Yeah.
Because there is an outside to the globe.
Oh, yeah. There's obviously an outside. It's just a question of what. Is it a bigger room, or if I'll throw in the Genesis thing, because people have been kind of pushing that on me, and that is, it's like the firmament that separates the waters above from the waters below, which would tie into that flood thing and make it a whole lot easier. You don't have to keep it raining all the time. You can just dump a whole bunch of water in.
But I do think you're onto something where we may not be a flat plane. We may be, again, we don't know. But I think the nature is neither. That we are being kept in the dark of something, and whether it is the quarantine, if we're on, an egg carton or a larger ice planet. That there's evidence that I've between between Tesla and Einstein and their differences in their theories. And Einstein seems to almost be a theory that worked back to prove that, science is, and how we accept everything. And, is contradictory to that in many ways.
Yeah.
It's another suspicious piece of the puzzle that I look at. Is, whether it's flat or round, I don't know, but they're hiding something. Definitely.
Yeah. And that was me too. I was like, look, whether it's you're absolutely right. Whether it's flat or round, they're hiding something. And whatever it is, look, if it's bigger than this, I'd love to have somebody suggest it to me, because it is huge. It is monstrous. It's big, and I'm a fairly creative guy, and I couldn't think of anything bigger than this, but I know it's tied to how the world looks, because that is one of the things they are absolutely religious about, is showing us as the bare minimum of what of what they want to portray the Earth as. So that's where I'm looking right now.
Yeah, definitely. We've been joined by Why Not, who is a regular caller. How are you doing tonight, Why Not?
I'm doing pretty good. This is interesting stuff. I don't really have a problem with the round or flat. It doesn't matter to me, but round is easy to prove. But it's like, I have a problem with this is another defeatist attitude towards like people wanting to break out of the box, because it seems useless. Like you're being controlled by something even bigger that you can't get away from no matter what. So it's like easy to just continue being a slave. So I don't like that part of this.
Okay. When I dug into this, by the time I got to Clue 11, initially I was a little worried as well, because I thought, okay, maybe it is sort of an overlordy type of thing. But for me, it is, if this thing is to be revealed, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, it is the only thing I can think of that could change the world for the better simultaneously. And here's why. If you know that somebody is not necessarily looking over you, but looking after you, would you do the things that you're doing now? And I'm not saying everybody that's on the phone here, you're probably all great people, but all the bad stuff in the world really gets taken down a whole bunch of notches. And that is, we all become one family, we all become one community. I'm not trying to do the kumbaya thing, but I'm saying it's in a big studio apartment at that point. Wars do not happen anymore, because they become irrelevant. Hate crimes. You really going to do a hate crime if you know that maybe there's a scorecard on you? Even regardless whether it's real or not, people are going to start thinking about it. Racism gets taken out a whole bunch of notches. Sexism gets taken a whole bunch of notches. We become better. Yeah, I know it seems like a little bit of a Big Brother type of thing, but at the same time, like look, what do we got to lose? At this point, we're not going to turn this around on our own. You want me to be defeatist? That's it. No group, no government is going to be able to do this on their own. And so, for me, it's like, look, that's why I put it out to the governments. I said, look, come out, fess up to this thing. You got a chance to fix this, and I think they can help you do it. Even if they don't show up to help us do it, I think it'll help us.
No, what I'm trying to get at is like now we're going to be controlled by aliens, and that's just as bad as the government. So you might as well just take the government, Well, so it's like it's a give up type of thing, instead of thinking that you could take care of the government, but then you got somebody else that's controlling you. So I don't believe in a creator that controls you. I think like I would do the same thing if I knew the creator was watching me, but it's like. The creator, if I was the creator, I would just like enjoy life and hope that everyone does too, and if you live forever, everybody's going to find a way to make it up to each other one of these days. So, like you got to wonder, why do we need all of this other stuff that we go through, to get along? Yeah. That's kind of what we're learning.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people slower than others, but in fact, a lot of people slower than others, but a good point.
Well, that's all we're taught here, like the religions aren't teaching us how to live forever or how to get along. They're teaching us how to make money and how to, hurt each other in a way, because even the religions have the warriors behind them. Like they're not saying no war. They're not saying do no harm.
Oh yeah, no religion. I mean, there's some that are more aggressive than others, but no religion is without sin. You have a point there. Excellent.
Yeah, so I mean, and even if some other race or something was to get here or something, you would think there's not many reasons for them to even, in the whole of star systems, you could find anything you need anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of a strange thing to believe that some race is going to come here and,
I don't even think they have to show up. Whoever it is,
just stuck in a bubble.
Well, again, if it's a very nice bubble, it's a very stylish bubble. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I try to include pictures even in this interview. The pictures that I throw in my slideshows. This world has some gorgeous areas to us. The only life forms that seem to be tearing it up is us.
Yeah, we don't know how deep this goes. We don't know how if we're on a plane.
Yeah.
Don't know how deep. Like, it's kind of interesting because if we're in a globe in space, well, space is infinite and there's multiple planets to go to. We can explore forever if we ever get the technology. But now, if we're on a plane, we don't know how deep it goes. So it could go, I guess, theoretically, forever, or we could,
or there could be another version of us on the other side.
Yeah, we could go. There could be another level. It could be sandwiches.
Yeah.
It could get to an infinite density, whereas maybe space is the ether as density breaks up. I mean, there may be a completely different way of looking at things. I say this because when I studied a little bit on Tesla's theory of ether and how it's not like you would think in Einstein's theory.
Yeah.
Science can be explained in many different ways to come up with the same answer. You could say a Halloween animal, 3 letters. Well, that could be BAT for a bat or CAT for a cat. Both answers are correct.
Ah, interesting.
Yes, I agree. And there's lots of ways to see science. I even have a whole nother way that everything works. But, it's hard to say that something would be flat, because everything you see everywhere you look is round.
Oh, of course.
Nature is round.
But if it's artificial.
But nature is also.
What?
I'm sorry.
It's
go ahead.
Artificial. You said artificial.
If Mr. Roby, if our world is an artificial construct, well, I shouldn't say it is natural, but if it was created, I should say by, then it wouldn't necessarily have to follow the rules that we placed when we created our mathematics, our physics, because we have created these rules by our observations.
Yeah.
We see something happen and we say, okay, it happens because of this. Well, that's our best guess.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're right and sometimes we're wrong. And we prove this to ourselves, as we go through history. We used to... The Earth was flat, and now we all know it's round.
yeah, isn't that the funny thing?
So we do these circles in our studies, if you will, and we, as human species, are ultimately curious. We're ultimately the tinkerers, and we have insatiably, we will tenaciously and insatiably pursue knowledge, whether it's a folly or not, to get an answer. And if there's further to go in the rabbit hole, we will keep going, and I think that's a strong trait, and that's what we need to do, is exhaust our pursuit for knowledge to its fullest.
Agreed.
Hey, can I make a comment here?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say, the caller, why not? He asked about governments being in control here, and then saying that if we had to deal with aliens, well, in my opinion, in the bigger picture, we're not in control and governments aren't in control. And they are already working in tangent with these so-called ancient aliens or the rebel angels, fallen angels, whatever you want to call them, that they have been here before we were, before even our creation, and that they're the ones that are pulling the shots, and they're doing it for a specific agenda. The New World Order, whatever you want to call it, it's all being driven by non-human entities, interdimensional beings, whatever you want to and their goals and their motive are contrary to our own. And so if you don't recognize this as the reality of what we're dealing with as world, you're really missing who Oz is, the boogeyman, the Jack in the Box. These beings, the powers, the principalities, the rulers of darkness. This is the truth. I mean, the mythology, the ancient mysteries, going all the way back, the oral traditions of indigenous native peoples, they speak of these beings and how they have, over time and over and over, tried to enslave humanity, have utilized mind control. Even the Emerald Tablets talk about how they took over the councils of men and have been ruling through the royals and the elites that give themselves up to possession by these entities, that there are these bloodlines and lineages that intermarry to keep their blood pure so that they can keep in contact with these particular beings. Even with all the secret societies and like Aleister Crowley and John Dee, their connections, the black magic rituals that they utilize to be in contact with these particular beings. I mean, that is the other side of it. And as long as we don't recognize that and own up to what we're dealing with as a world, we're missing a big part of what is the true scenario. It's like that whole movie, They Live. I mean, it was a B-rated movie, but that's the truth of it. And, I know it sounds totally crazy and absolutely lunatic fringe, but when you really look into it and tie together the conspiratorial side of what's going on in the world with the biblical and prophetic and ancient mysteries, the Sumerian teachings, everything, there's an underlying truth that predicates that this is the premise of what we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, can I just say that, like if I was nature or if creator exists, I could make up a whole story like that, how the creator controls everything, and really that the dark side has no power at all, but it's like, it's all how you're looking at things, because the stuff you're talking about came from man, and man has, been around a long time screwing with all this little, all the things in the library, so it's hard to say, what we've been fed, This could all be an illusion.
Very, very
from
true.
Man.
To your point, though, and I can, and by the way, I don't think you're crazy, but then again, I'm opening with flat Earth, so I can't really judge. But at the same time, there is one rule of power, and that isn't changed, and that is true power stays hidden. So you've got some great points, and that is
like the creator.
There you go. Yeah. People think we're ruled by this and this, but it's layers. The rule of power is you don't want to be overthrown. You don't make yourself visible. You stay hidden, and you have to be anonymous.
Well, I think the creator lets us get about this far, and then comes back and shows us who really has the knowledge. And it's real easy when we realize that we're talking about flat Earth instead of round, Maybe the creator's just going to show us how it's round now.
Well, yeah, I know, and I've thought of that too. But at the same time, I think that, maybe it could be the 100 monkey scenario where, as a matter of fact, somebody mentioned it to me yesterday, which was, there was a South Park episode done on just this very same thing. Season 7, episode 1, where they canceled Earth because everybody figured out they were on a reality show, and so they just canceled it. But
yes.
It was ludicrous. I was going, holy smokes, why has nobody sent this to me yet? But it could be one of those 100th monkey scenarios where if enough people run into it, it's like, okay, then maybe whoever built this place reveals themselves. And again, this could be why we're talking in 2015. For me, it doesn't seem logical that we're talking about this now, even though last year I would have laughed all of you out of the room if anyone would have brought it up to me. It's just so strange.
I know.
I was right there with you.
Yeah,
absolutely. Me too. So.
Yeah, but and why? Yeah, everything that I've done, everybody that's talked to me, nobody is coming at saying this is the most horrible, ridiculous, ludicrous thing I've ever heard of. You can go away now. They listen to it for a while, and then some people starts cycling in their heads, and it's like, how is this happening? Why are people not beating me up? I have no idea.
Now,
I like what Helena said. Because she said that this makes you think, and that's what's good about it.
Exercise. And how long have you been researching this again, Mark?
Not that long. I mean, I started last summer, and then I sat on it for several months as I was again trying to work it through my head, and then February 10th of this year is when I literally woke up in the middle of the night, had the narrative, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to put it out there. And minimize it as much as possible. I didn't monetize it. I didn't allow likes or dislikes or comments. I buried it as deep as I could, and yet here we are. So not long. Last summer is when I started on it.
Okay, yeah. Now we're just an arrogant group as a human species. I keep thinking about what you said and how we may not. Well, of course we're not the first inhabitants of this earth, and we may not be the intended targets of this quarantine or globe or
good point.
Project,
Good point.
Just be a side. We may be part of the flora and fauna, or somebody might have dropped us off at the top.
We may just be the character actors in this stage show. There's so much wonderful myth and prophecy that's out there that I keep wondering. It's like, is this when Act 3 starts? Is this when we finally get to see the real stuff? Up until now, I mean, it's been okay, but I think the exciting stuff is yet to come.
Oh, absolutely. And there's just so many implications that, not just one implication, that there's dozens and dozens of implications that occur when you discover that things aren't as they seem, and if we, like you said earlier in the show, if we had a mass awakening and everybody finally had their eyes wide open forcefully and saw that there was more land, or that we're in a cage, or any number of these, that everything's artificial, or that even something as mundane as ancient technology being discovered, but completely.
Or maybe everything's real.
Maybe they had to wait until the communication lines were so fast that, because even 10, 15 years ago, it would still take a while to spread around or around. And but now something like this, if something does get revealed, or something, there is some big awakening, it goes across all countries in a few hours.
Yeah. Now, okay, the easy way for a billionaire or somebody with a lot of money, we could prove this very easily, is by getting some sort of probes down there to the South Pole and just circumventing the entire route to see how long and how many miles it takes, and how
to get around Antarctica.
Yeah. That would right there kind of prove whether it's how big the bottom is compared to the top.
Exactly. And I'm not knocking the people that are out there doing the curvatures tests and the gravity tests and all that other fun stuff. I mean, that's one thing, but the huge discrepancy, the big discrepancy between the normal map and the flat map is the coastline of Antarctica. If it is if it's a flat map, we'll say it's a plane for your show. If it's a plane, the coastline of Antarctica is 7 times larger, at least, than the coastline that they're telling us now, which meant that a plane, because right now the coastline is supposed to be a little bigger than Australia. So if you took 2 boats, they'd meet each other. If one went one way, the other went the other way. They'd meet each other in like a week, but you should be able to do a plane around it, a decent sized plane in 13 hours, 14 hours. It'd be a great test. I'd love for somebody with a bunch of coin to spare to try to do that.
And there is a video that was posted by a girlfriend. I don't think it was supposed to be posted on Facebook. I got a hold of it. I downloaded it, and it is her boyfriend, who is with the Antarctic Defense Force, and he's in his jet. Excuse me, he's in his jet plane, like an F-16 or whatever.
Yeah,
flying patrol with multinational. You can see the flags on the planes, and he's flying over. You see a wall of ice. You see the ice and all that, and showing this with his girlfriend. They're doing a little video, and she's bragging on how he's with the Antarctic Defense Force, keeping us protected. That's what her.
Yes, send that to me if you can, because until you said that, I didn't even know there was an official Antarctic Defense Force.
Well, see, I looked it up now because I looked exactly, and he's in this little, it looks real, and she lives in Monte Carlo.
Okay,
these are privileged folks, okay, and you have to be involved in something like this.
Yeah,
and it's a very good video. I did download it. I did save it, so I will email it off to you after the show.
Wow,
and. I looked up Antarctic. I didn't find anything really of it. I found the treaty information.
Yeah.
And I found a fictional thing, like, I don't know if it was from a video game or something like that, but they have this little wiki. And first I looked at it, I found it. And then I went, wait a minute, this doesn't look, okay, it's something real.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll send that off. But there is definitely an Antarctic Defense Force.
Did you happen to catch what nationality this guy was? The fighter pilot?
Now, he looked like he could be, he could have been American. He had looked sort of Asian, but I get the impression he was sort of an American. His girlfriend looked like she was Western European or American model.
Wow.
And I'll give you that information. And then he was flying next to what appeared to be, I think it would be an Argentinian flag on a jet, or a Venezuelan, one of those South American countries.
Sure. Yeah, Argentina was one of the 10 nations that was down there in the beginning, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
they were part of the core group.
They fly daily patrols all along, and she's like protecting us. And I'm protecting us from what?
From what? What? To what end? Yeah, I know. Again, people don't understand. It's like, because I think I mentioned that there's a multinational navy, that helps patrol the coast. And it's like nobody wants to go down there anyway. But that's how good this is. It's like there's one thing I have learned through this process, and that is these guys do not take chances. And what was that? Jarl Landahay or whatever that.
The guy that tried to ram his way through.
Yeah. Again, and it's for people just like that. I mean, it's overkill, of course, but yeah, for anyone, thinks they're going to storm the Antarctic beach, I don't know where you think you're going.
Yeah, they do make a big deal out of it. I saw the thing on this guy, and they were ready to arrest him and throw him into jail. And I mean, they had the forces out there looking for him. He wasn't going to get to Antarctica. Damn it!
There was a German guy. You can look this up. There was a couple years ago who snuck into Antarctica and was walking around the ice, and went back to Germany and says, "Yeah, I was in Antarctica." And they tried to fine him like 40,000 euros or something like that. It was ridiculous. It's like why would you just why bother? It was amazing. So yeah, layers.
We're coming up toward the end of the show. Zen, I want to give you a chance to come up with anything to say toward the end here.
All right. Well, just a couple of real quick things. I posted on my website, Fallen Angels TV, a couple videos. One of like a GoPro camera on the outside of a rocket booster that goes, really high up, and it shows the horizon, the clouds that leaving from the planet and going really high up in the space, and then they have those high altitude balloons that do the same thing.
Yeah.
It shows the horizon as flat, going way up as well. Yeah. The other thing is as far as satellites is the temperature of the thermosphere, and the claims that satellites are made out of this really fragile stuff so that they can be really light and maintain their orbital the rotation around the Earth. But if they were to be made out of those kind of things, they wouldn't survive in the thermosphere. And the other thing is that I personally found the Bible code on this. I know a lot of people don't, consider Bible codes as any kind of resource, or, but I think that there's something to it, and I'm going to talk about that on my show this Saturday. Last comment is that not only the United Nations flag, but also the flag for the International Aviation and Maritime Organizations, all of those use the azimuthal map, the flat Earth map as their logo, their flag. And so you have to wonder, does the United Nations know something that, and then that they're just kind of making fun of us and playing it out with their their flag and logo in their conference room.
Yeah, an excellent point, by the way, that the United Nations flag, and that's one of those little tricky things I didn't even talk about in the clues, which was the United Nations flag was finished in 1946, but Admiral Byrd was still looking all the way up to 1956, which, led me to, okay, they absolutely knew what they were sending, and they jumped the gun. They said, they had the old maps. They knew exactly what he was going to find, but for whatever reason, he couldn't find it. But yeah, the United Nations flag, if anyone wants to look up weird stuff, look at that thing. It is the exact model of the flat Earth, only there's one thing missing on it. It's Antarctica. No one explains why. You can look it up online all day long. The United Nations is not going to tell you why it's not there.
Yeah, it's just one of those little clues.
Yeah.
It just, when you're lied to constantly on you judge a tree by its fruit. And when the tree keeps giving you rotten fruit, you got to wonder. It's just like a lot of times I wonder about people that swear by vaccines where, everything is steered to kill you, the pharmaceutical food industry. But for some reason, the vaccines are going to be safe. You have deviation. And these are the little holes in logic that I like to attack.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know, I didn't even know much about that until somebody pointed me, they said, look up on YouTube and type in 2 words, vaccinations and autism. And I was a wreck for the rest of the afternoon. It was sad watching all those people's testimonies. Not good.
Oh, yeah, and Amish, because they don't vaccinate, and there's no cases of autism in their population.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, we're about 1 or 2 minutes. I'm going to give you a chance to throw your website. Hey, you're welcome to come back on the show.
Happy to do it.
Talk about this. We can talk about anything.
Okay.
You're more than welcome to come back at any time.
Thank you. The website is, again, if you want to, there's easy ways to find this. You can either just Google or search engine, just type in Flat Earth Clues. I don't care how you type it in, it'll show up. You can go to YouTube and type in Flat Earth Clues. The official website is enclosedworld.com. That's where everything is, all in one little place. It's real easy. I just finished that website a few weeks ago. But more than that, just check out the other people. I mean, there's a ton of stuff out there by people. I'm looking at the short playlist that I have. Anyone wants to email me at msargent23@comcast.net. I'll send you the playlist of other people that are doing stuff out there, like Crow 777, like Eric Dubé, like 144,000, Learn of the Jesuit Order, Jeranism, John LeBond, Lawrence Wright, the guy that gave me the name for the long haul. There's so much good stuff out there. And my parting shot, and I know we're running out of time, is I try to tell people, is like, look, if you're going to follow one thing in your life, treat others better than you treat yourself.
Very good. Well, thank you very much, Mark. You have a very good Thursday night, and have a good weekend, actually.
Thank you.
On Saturday.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I'll be tuning into your show on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I completely forgot. Strange World on Truth Frequency, Saturday nights, 5 to 7 Pacific time. It's a lot of fun.
All right. And Zen, thank you very much for joining, brother.
Hey, I appreciate the invitation. It was a good time.
All right. Thanks,
man.
Well, music started any moment, so I just want to say thank you for everyone in the chat room or listening in. And hopefully we didn't ruffle too many feathers too bad. So, all right. Thank you, guys. Have a good weekend, everyone.
See ya.